Okay, I'm going to go on and get started. Um, and this is being recorded, and I will post it in the student lounge, and we go from there. So I trust that all is well and that you are or have already completed your elevator pitch redo. As you may know, it is due on by tonight, 11:59. The section closes after that. So it is my hope that you are done with that. And I look forward to grading it. I'm sure you did a wonderful job. That said, I'm going to go on and get right into the informative presentation. Now, let me say a couple of things in regards to the informative presentation. No visual aid is required. Okay, so no visual aid is required. However, one of the categories of an informative presentation is a demonstration. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in detail later. But no visual aid is required for this. And the time range is 3 to 4 minutes. As I shared in the earlier video in regards to the elevator pitch, time will be the very first thing I look at upon evaluation and grading. And if you're over or under the required time, I will deduct points. So it is incumbent that everyone stays within the 3 to 4 minute time range. Now, let me go over a couple things with you. And I want to talk to you about informative presentations. So let's go from there. Okay, so bottom line here, and hopefully you can see this, so just give me a digital thumbs up or what have you. Your upcoming informative presentation, the bottom line here is to introduce a new idea, instruct or demonstrate to your audience, how to, or even explain a complicated information. Now, when you talk about complicated information, I strongly encourage you to make it relatable and break it down to where your audience can understand. Because at the end of the day, it's not about the speaker, it's really about the audience. And if they can grasp what you're talking about, then they're more likely to retain what you're talking about, more likely to listen to you, and more likely to understand all the concepts and everything. So keep that in mind. Now, there are different types of informative presentations. One, you have a presentation of awareness, explanation, demonstration, and even presentations that compare. Example, with awareness, you can inform your audience of a particular event or place or thing or even a person. Perfect example of this is information about discounted virtual masterclasses or inexpensive places to stay while on vacation, or a particular app or something to use to help you learn about flight delays or what have you. Explanation, helping someone to understand something a little deeper, a deeper understanding of a topic. For example, it could be something along the line of financial, I don't know, maybe accounting concepts or what have you, or technical, how to, let's just say, do basic HTML or coding in Python or something of that nature, getting, Python for 101 for dummies, as they say. Demonstration, explaining to the audience how to do something. For example, I've had students do self-defense classes, yoga, how to create a TikTok video, how to generate more followers on Twitter, or many things. One of the best ones I've seen here at UMGC, one gentleman gave a demonstration on how to make the perfect steak. And he had everything set up in the kitchen, just like on a TV show, and had all the ingredients prepared and everything, and added them while he was talking and everything. And then he, showed, flash forward to the finished product or whatever. And I mean, he had it all there. He even had his glass of wine there while he was demonstrating his cooking. It was awesome. I never forgot that. So you're limited by your imagination. But the cool thing about it is establish your credibility. In other words, what do I mean when I say that? What makes you credible to talk about this topic? It could be formal education, it could be experience that you've had, or just been doing it for a while in your work. In other words, what makes you good at this? The next thing in regards to a demonstration is what is your end goal? In other words, what will I be able to do? Will I learn how to make the perfect steak? Is that the end goal? And last type of informative speech, they can compare each other, pros and cons, like online classes versus in-person classes, benefits and I guess you could say pros and cons. And believe it or not, these type of types can overlap each other. So, some things to keep in mind, and I have made this visual aid available to everyone. In fact, it'll show up about midnight tonight. So it will be available to you. So let me ask you this before I keep moving. How you doing? You have an issue with the sound. Okay, I'll take it as okay. That's cool. All right. So how you turned sideways? I don't know what's going on over there. But there you go. We got your back.
Can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay, I was trying to get to the button and everything, and it just got all mixed up. So
It's got fun, isn't it? I tell you, I was thinking about this before I got on, and I never forget this one. This might have been a little over a year ago, and I was doing a virtual just like this before my students at College Park. And, I was in the zone doing my thing, and this huge spider ran across my keyboard. Now, I don't like spiders, but I had to try to be cool as I could, and the thing, and I don't know, it must knew that I was afraid because it stopped. I'm like, why don't you just keep going? So, yeah, these things happen. So there's two types of virtual presentations, the asynchronous one and the synchronous. Bottom line, the difference between the two, the synchronous is live, just like we're doing now, and the asynchronous is what you will be doing. You will be recording and posting. So that's kind of the bottom line. The difference, a major difference is, of course, you can't ask questions in real time, so you might be able to post the questions, but you can't ask them in real time. So, and the benefit of the synchronous is it can work well if you got people in different time zones because they can look at it when they get the time. So let me go over a few things that I've seen, the good, the bad, and the ugly in regards to people doing virtual presentations, especially both synchronous and asynchronous. One, you want to get the lighting right, okay? Usually, preferably, it's best that most of your lighting comes from the front versus the back. And yes, I have a light on in the back, But most of your lighting should come from the front of you. I'll tell you why. I've seen people give presentations from their room, whatever room, and they got a window behind them, and you can't even see them. It looks like that light, like they're descending from heaven. You see a shape, but you can't see the person. You know what I mean? So make sure that you get your lighting right. Choose the right background. Oh my goodness. I have seen it all, from laundry, jacked up beds. People have often asked me, they say, have you ever served in the military? And no, I haven't. But dude, I will rival any one of you in terms of having stuff in order and in place and neat and folded and things of that nature. I'll be able to hang with either one of you guys, man. But I've seen it all. I've seen it all, man. So make sure that your background is tight, okay? Now this is where you just got in trouble. Know the technology, all right? Understand the technology that you're working with, sound and of course the video and all of that good stuff. So make sure that you understand the technology. I've had again a presentation or two, person doing all kind of gyrations and everything, but I couldn't hear them. So it looked like they were doing a mime show. So anyway, play to the camera. Depending on your topic, just like I was telling you about the gentleman who was doing the perfect steak, he looking at the camera, he had the camera zoom in on the steak while it was sizzling, showed himself having a glass of wine, everything. Play to the camera and do the best you can to look into the camera. I can tell when a person's sitting just reading, okay? I don't like that. I'll be honest with you. Doesn't mean you can't glance at something, but you sit there and just read. That's not a presentation. That's a recitation. That's just reading. All right. And last, and I think we might run into this with some of our parents, get close to the camera, but not too close. We don't need to see what you had for Thanksgiving. We don't need to see your nose hairs. You know what I mean? We don't need to see all of that. It was, the hair in your ear. We've seen this stuff on TV, but you'd be surprised how many people make that mistake. Any comments or questions on anything? All right. Now, here's some good stuff. And this kind of goes into my week 2 posting as well. If you can, stand up and deliver your presentation. Now, I know certain rooms and environments might not dictate that, but if you have to sit down, you see how I'm sitting up and you see how I'm, posture and gestures and everything. I've seen folks, man, to sit back, you swear they're making a love video. Yeah, baby, yeah, I can hear the music in the background. I can hear Barry White in the background. Sit up and have a little energy and dynamism with you. Do a sound check. We've already talked about that. Make sure everything's working. Engage your participants. Okay, you can ask questions. Of course, you're not going to get an answer, but you can ask a question. You can ask what do they call it? Not a direct question, but a closed question. Be yourself. Do you. Let your personality show. I'm not impressed that you just know your speech and you're sitting down or standing up like a robot. Have a conversation with your audience. Envision however many people you want to see there and have a conversation with them. And be animated, not too slow, like this cartoon might date you, Winnie the Pooh's sidekick, Eeyore, slow or too monotone or anything of that nature. Put some oomph in it, a little dynamism. I like that. I love energy. Energy is contagious. Would you agree? just like a smile, right? Okay. All right. Comments, questions. And just because you showed up, I'm going to throw bonus section in here for you. Everybody's not going to get this. Bonus for you. The first thing that any speaker, be it a pro or be it a Joe, needs to understand is who the heck they're talking to. Who is your audience? One size don't fit all. Oftentimes when I have gigs or engagements, as I like to call them, I always ask, who am I talking to? I never, even if the customer asks for it, I never grab something off the shelf and say, hey, this speech, plug and play, because it doesn't work like that. So I try to understand as much as I can about who's going to be there. I mean, everything from how long am I supposed to speak? You'd be surprised how many people don't ask that. And they just keep going and going like that Energizer bunny. They just keep going and going. And, you know, we have short attention spans, okay? We have short attention spans. So you had to understand how long and stay within that time frame. That's why I'm a stickler for doing that in this assignment, because this is a real world application. Next, you'd be surprised how many people don't know where the hell they're going. Where am I speaking? What's the venue like? Is it in a theater type setting? Or is it in a conference room type setting? Or is it in a classroom type setting? Because believe it or not, those different types of environments, and there's several others, they can dictate how effective you can be. You know, you might not be able to have an activity in a theater type environment when there's a whole group of people, or a ballroom, as opposed to a classroom. So it all depends. Age. Millennials are tickled by one thing, boomers are tickled by another thing. Let's just keep it real. Gender. So I mean, you can run the myriad, but you want to understand, and usually a coordinator or somebody would tell you what you're getting into, but you'd be surprised if you don't ask. Sometimes you don't know. One of my most famous stories, I did a huge workshop for Penn State University, and I was sitting down with the coordinator and the training manager, and it was a workshop on stereotypes. And they had me come in, and I was sitting with the coordinator, and I asked him, who am I speaking to? And he said, most of the people that you will be speaking to are white, rural, different parts of Pennsylvania, and everything else. And so my question back to him was, so who are they going to practice it on? You know, in other words, who, after they learn all of this stuff, who are they going to practice it on? And he couldn't answer that question. But I'm glad I did ask that question, because what I was able to do was craft, and they were wonderful, wonderful group of people, some of the best people I've ever worked with up there at Penn State. I was able to specifically craft my workshop to get that particular audience to see how they can be stereotyped. And once we got into the discussion, and I got them to answer, you know, I got to ask them a few questions, I come to find out that they were from different backgrounds, you know, all kind of different things. One guy said he would not go back to his high school reunion because he got teased because he was on special assistance growing up. Another person stayed away from certain social situations with his high school friends because he said he was teased about his weight. So to make a long story short, once I got the audience to look into how they can be stereotyped based on social economic status, based on, you know, build and everything else, they started to understand what it felt like. They started to understand what it felt like to be stereotyped. And as a result, developed more empathy for others. You know what I mean? So that's why it's key to ask that question. And bottom line, here's what an audience analysis is. And again, this visual aid would be made available. It is available actually. And it's going to show up, like I said, at midnight. It's the process of learning more about your audience in order to appropriately adapt and target your message so that your presentation is better understood and useful to the audience and even more and even well received. So that's a good analysis. And that WIIFM, what that stands for is what's in it for me. Every speaker should ask that question of the audience. In other words, what's in it for them? What's in it for them? Comments or questions? Or as my UMGC former grad school professor used to ask, does anybody give a damn?
I did have one question.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any advice for when you don't know who exactly it is that your audience is, or when you don't have enough time to figure that out ahead of time? Like if you're sidelined, or not necessarily sidelined, but you say you've gone to several different meetings and then you just don't quite know who it is that you'll have the opportunity to speak to.
So you've gone to meetings, so you're collaborating with other people, and no one would, you can't count on people telling you that now. So you got to ask somebody. You have to ask someone. Now, can you get caught? Of course you can.
That was my main question, is like, if you're caught or
Right.
sidelined, like, hey, can you talk like in the next 5 minutes? And you're like,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I mean? Something like that.
Yeah. That happened to me one time.
So I figured you might have some experience.
One morning, 7 o'clock, I was enjoying my coffee because I'm an early riser. Get a call. It was the executive vice president at the University of Maryland, Baltimore. And he asked me if I could come give a presentation for them in downtown Baltimore. I said, sure. When? 11 o'clock. Huh? Like, what do you want me to talk about? You tell me. How many people are going to be there? 400. And you're going to be sitting at the table with the university professor and his assistants. Great. Now, I could have turned that down, but I did not. So he asked me, so what's the title of your presentation? I thought you speaker types, y'all keep a speech in your back pocket kind of thing. In other words, I can't talk. I'm like, no, it don't work like that, man. So I literally wrote, are you local?
I'm in South Carolina.
Oh, okay. Well, I literally drafted that speech while I was on the highway driving up to Baltimore. I had to speak for 15 minutes. And yes, I was seated at the same table as the university president, who is now the president of the university system of freaking Maryland. Yeah. And I pulled together a talk called Great Grace in Giving Back, because the occasion, which I did ask, was the annual presentation for celebrating longevity, employee longevity. So you had some employees that were 40 years, 10 years, whatever. I was able to squeeze a question or two in, and pretty much what I did, I drafted this speech and it went well. And I got a 5-year contract.
Ooh, there you go. So
Yeah.
it sounds kind of like just, even though you were on a short notice and you weren't able to actually get all the information as far as like the demographics or who else was going to be there, it sounded like you at the very least were able to figure out what the purpose of the venue, the purpose of the speaking event was. Even
Yeah,
if they didn't have a specific, like, I want you to talk about this or talk about that, you were able to figure out, okay, what is the nature of the thing that I'm going to go to, and then kind of tailor from there.
exactly. Exactly. And I kind of
Okay.
sort of knew the environment because I've done sessions with them before. So, and I've done work with a lot of universities. So I kind of sort of knew the environment, but I had to pull that together. So that was fun because Baltimore is good 45 minutes in good traffic.
Right.
So I lost an hour and, you know, but anyway, yeah. So if you can squeeze it, whoever asking you, if you could squeeze in a question, even if it's 5, 10 minutes, you know, come on, let's be for real. I know you're probably good at when it's time to move, it's time, you know how to move. Yeah. So you can make that happen. But at least get in a question if you can. I strongly encourage that. If you
Thank
don't, take a candle, brother, and light it. Take a candle and light it. So attached in this document that will mysteriously appear at, hold on a second, at midnight is, and this is just a recommendation, is a simple outline. I encourage everybody to outline their talk because it's kind of like the map. You know what I mean? You got to know where you're going. And so this is a simple outline. Now, it don't look that simple, but let me just cover it real quick for you. Of course, there's rudimentary stuff, the date, and all of that good stuff. Speech topic. Man, I tell you, if we were in person, we would have a freaking class on. You want me to, I need to make it bigger? Is that better? Okay. Yeah, speech topic. I always say, the sexier the better. Be creative. Use your imagination. Use a twist on words or what have you. And what's the purpose of your talk? I'll go back to making I want to teach my audience how to make the perfect steak. That's usually a one sentence thing. The purpose statement. Okay. So, topic of your speech, how to make the perfect steak. And the guy had it in colon. He said, don't get cooked. Don't get burnt. I'm sorry, don't get burnt. So that was kind of funny. It was a catchy topic. Now, you line that out. Now, next, you have to ask yourself, the attention getter, how you going to open? The opening is very important because if you lose your audience at the beginning, you've lost them. You lost them. They're going to do everything but listen to you. So you put your attention getter there. And there's several ways to open up with your presentation. One, and I think this one is maybe the most powerful, you could tell a story. We love stories. We grew up on stories. You can open with the story. In fact, that's what I did with that group up there in Baltimore when I had that impromptu presentation. Next, you can ask a question. You can ask a direct question or an indirect question of your audience. Of course, the direct one is where you're expecting a response. Next, you can open with a startling fact or statistic. You can open with that. Or you can open with a line of humor. Now, if you're not that funny, don't go there. Don't go there. Next, your thesis or your core message. What is your main message? How to cook that perfect steak. I'm show you how to cook that perfect steak. And everything else orbits around that, your main points. Now, you should really only have 3 main points. Why 3? Well, the number 3 is a very powerful number. It's been used from biblical times to current times. You know, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, 3 wise men, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The 3 little pigs, 3 blind mice, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we're free at last. That is for the purpose of getting your audience, this repetition, to get them to remember. And like I said, it is something about that number 3. So those main points are going to orbit around your thesis or your core message. Next, the preview. You just kind of previewing your main points. Hey, I'm going to talk about what seasonings to use in the perfect steak. I'm going to talk about the temperature to cook the perfect steak. And then I'm going to talk about the different kinds of steak. So boom, boom, boom. Or even the perfect wine pairing for the perfect steak. So your 3 main points. Now here, you can title your first main point right here, boom. You can title your second main point, boom. And in outline, you can title your third main point. And this will be available to you. Now, these sub points, you don't have to fill in all of these. You can just have a main point, and then you can have 1 or 2 or preferably 3 sub points to that main point. Same thing with the second main point, and the next thing with the third main point. Okay, now for a good, strong conclusion, take us back to what you told us in the beginning. Earlier in the talk, I shared with you the seasonings on how to make the perfect steak. Next, I talked to you about the perfect temperature to cook the perfect steak. Last, I talked to you about the perfect wine pairing for the perfect steak. So now you reminded us of what you told us in your conclusion, which is what the conclusion should do. And then you make your closing statement. If you put all of these together, I can assure you that you will have a wonderful dining experience. Boom, there you go. Now, in this section here for references, which you can put on your in your outline, I strongly encourage you all the college students, every student, to research their topic. Because what makes a topic real interesting, let's say you're in the middle of the body of your speech here. And let's just say you say, hey, according to Food and Wine magazine, it is said that this is the best wine to go with your steak. Okay, guess what? We're in an information age. I might decide to look that up. Oh man, he's telling me the truth. Guess what? You have credibility because I know you've done your homework. You understand? So always put your facts down here. We don't live in a world of alternative facts. We live in a world of real facts. Okay? And you feel free to use APA or Chicago style or MLA style to put your references in there. And this whole thing, be honest with you, because you're plugging in your speech in here, you're filling this in. You should have no more for this particular speech. 2 pages, really? 2 pages. Comments or questions?
Yes, sir. I just had a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
For the purpose of this speech, what would be legitimate references for us, such as either peer-reviewed, or it sounded like you had mentioned like a online journal or magazine article or something like that. That's also acceptable?
Yes, 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 absolutely. But cite in other words, I call it oral citation. You're citing your sources. You're citing your sources. And that's what gives you the credibility. That makes your talk so much more powerful, you know, because you'd be surprised how many people get up here and they go, they said. Who in the heck are they? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That don't cut it. And so that gives you credibility, and people will want to hear from you, and people will love this guy. He knows his stuff. So find the source. Any other questions?
Yeah, this one's more of just kind of like a administrative kind of question as far as the speech is concerned.
Yes, sir.
Are we allowed to do like two different cut shots from, like, does it all have to be one single shot, or can we, if we have to cut to a different location to do something? I know you mentioned the individual who did the speech on how to make the perfect steak, how he cut to the end and showed him pairing it with a wine or something like that. So I was just wondering, are we able to kind of either speak over a different shot, or are we able to cut between two different shots and then just kind of
As
take
long
it
as it's not too long. I mean, and I'll tell you the particulars of that. Yeah, he panned to the seasoning sizzling in the pan, but it came back to him eventually. He showed him putting a steak on it and pan, getting it going, and it came back to him. Yeah.
So as long as it's coming back and forth, as long as we maintain that.
Right. And think about if you ever watch any of the cooking shows or whatever, at some point it comes back to them.
Right.
It always comes
Okay.
back to them. Right. Yeah. So, and that's
Sounds
fine.
good.
And let's say you want to, and I'm just making this up. I've had a student demonstrate weightlifting, how to lift the proper weight and do it properly. So he just panned the camera back enough to see him, everybody could see him in the weights. And, he did his squats and did his thing. And, when he got done, he's propped it back up and he was just talking, So you're limited by your imagination, but again, yes, I like steak like the next person. Sorry, vegans and vegetarians, but I do. But I didn't dial in to see the steak. I dial in to hear him and see him. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Oh, okay. No, thank you. Thank you. Okay. So we talked about the outline here, and we talked about the lighting. We talked about the opening. We talked about the engagement part, and we talked about the closing. Now, this might sound simple, but I'd have to say this anyway because sometimes it happens. Please, and I'm talking to those who will be viewing this video, please speak up. Check your sound, speak up, okay? And also the nonverbal, please. You see me with my hand thingies and stuff like that. I'm not saying you got to do all that, but please put a little, little pepper on that, Give me a little spice it up. So that's what I wanted to cover there. Now, if we had a few people in here, which I'm surprised we don't, but I'll make it available for them. It's just the right thing to do. I would have put you guys in a breakout room and had you all come up with your topic. Make it kind of like a little workshop, but that's okay. It's just me and you, John. We got it. My man. John, you my hero, man, in more ways than one. All right. I'm going to show you a little video, John. You ready to see a little video?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hold on a second. It's an informative presentation. One of my former students, she gave me permission to do this. So I am going to share this with you. Let's see how this works. Can you see it? Okay. All right. So I'm going to post this one too. Class, you're already in here, John, but I'm talking to those who are not. Class, do this. You see she's standing? You see she's smiling? I ain't saying everybody got to smile because every time we're smiling. But anyway, check it out.
Hello, everyone. My name is Selena Spears, and I'm a marketer here at Amazon. Have you ever attempted to make a lifestyle change, such as eating better, getting more exercise, or developing better sleep habits? I'm sure we all have. Well, today I'm here to inform you about our new product, the Amazon Halo View. Teaming up with our researchers, I will now go over some of the main features of our new product. First is activity. The Halo View tracks the user's heart rate, step count, calories burned, and activity points. It automatically detects workouts and will give the user a score based on the duration and intensity of that workout. The Halo View also takes points away if the user has been sedentary too long. Now, what are activity points? Amazon used the recommendations of both the WHO and the CDC, which state that adults between...
I want to pause it right there real quick. Did you hear her? She already cited her sources, the WHO, World Health Organization, and the CDC. That's what I'm talking about, my man.
The ages of 18 and 65 should get at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise per week. So Amazon took the 150 minutes and turned it into 150 points. Next is movement. The Halo View can track the user's stability, mobility, and posture. It does this by conducting an assessment once every 2 weeks, where the app will demonstrate different exercises for the user to repeat at different angles. And then based on the assessment, the app will recommend a program to help with the targeted areas that are needed to improve mobility. Next is body composition. Our researchers here at Amazon teamed up with researchers at Harvard and Louisiana State University and came up with a multi-site study that showed that our body scan technology is comparable to the technology that doctors use on their patients to find their body fat percentage and body composition. That same study also showed that our technology is twice as good as the technology used in the smart scales that detect body composition for home use. Next is sleep. Sleep is very accurately tracked in the Halo app. It can detect the duration of sleep, the skin temperature, the efficiency of the sleep, and can also detect what are called sleep disturbances. Now, the Mayo Clinic describes some sleep disturbances as such as insomnia, where the person has difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep, and sleep apnea, where the breathing has interrupted patterns. And so the Amazon Halo View can detect some of those signs so that you can go to your doctor and see if you actually have an issue with your sleep. So today we've talked about our new product, the Halo View. We've talked about activity tracking, movement, body composition, and sleep tracking. We're very excited to show you our new product and hope that if you have any questions or concerns, you will let us know.
All right. All right. So what are your thoughts, John?
I thought it was very interesting. She's making very good eye contact with the camera. I don't even think with the elevator speech I was able to make eye contact that well.
So you mean to
So,
tell me if you came up to introduce yourself to me, you would not look at me, man?
well, I think I when I talk or think, I have a tendency to look off, and I can tell that there's times when she was thinking that even though she was thinking, she was looking right at the camera, and I thought that was very intense and interesting. Just because I don't, it's one of those things where it definitely makes me feel like they're paying attention to me, but it
Mm-hmm.
feels unnatural.
Mm-hmm. I
I
got
don't
you.
know if that makes sense,
No, I
but
understand. I understand. Anything else you
but other
noticed?
than that, oh yeah, she's got great posture. She's it sounds like she's hitting the points. Like I was saying, even when she's thinking, she's not filling it up with or
Boom.
any fillers.
That's right. That's right. No
She's just taking
fillers.
that deep breath.
And and she had the gestures, appropriate gestures or what have you.
Right.
And for the she learned her talk.
Right. Right. Yeah, it makes me wonder if she learned it verbatim or if she just did that one thing. I forget exactly what it was called from the reading that we had this week, where you learn the key points and then you just reference the key points, say okay, and then you deliver
Yeah,
the
it could have. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And that's always a good thing because what happens is it frees you up to do the gestures and all the other things. It frees you up. And she was very conversational. She didn't sound like, she was scripted, even though I'm sure it came from a script, but she was conversational. And that's what I'm talking about. This is what separates the Joes from the pros in regards to giving presentations. Okay, all right. Well, you got through it, my man. You got through it. I know I was standing between you and dinner. I don't know when you had dinner, but anyway, if you haven't yet, just let me have you for about 5 minutes or less.
No worries. I work nights anyways.
Yeah. Okay. So you got quiz 4 due tonight if you haven't done it already. So make sure you get that in, um, just for you and the class. This coming Tuesday, yeah, well, next Tuesday. Your informative briefing is due, so it's going to be a quick turnaround. So, in terms of a topic, please, and I'm talking to the audience too, please don't pick anything complicated like how to catch a quasar or something like, or split an atom. Don't do that. Pick something that you're passionate about. I just told you about the guy with the steak and the wine. Heck, I wanted to come through the screen because he made it look so relatable. Pick something that you're passionate about because you're more likely to, it's not an uphill climb, if you will, and center it around some facts. Okay, sorry, got off track. Our next virtual session will be on Tuesday, the 26th, and we are going to talk about persuasive talks. Of course, I'll post all of that out there for you and everything, which will be due on August the 2nd. Now, the thing with the persuasive talk, this is a 6 to 8 minute talk. So we're almost doubling the time here. But there's an app for that, and I have strategies for that. But you know how you have to you know how you're going to learn the strategies? You got to show up. You got to show up like John. You got to show up like John. Any questions, my man?
Yeah, I just had one
Yes,
real
sir.
quick question. This is just one of the ones that were for throughout the whole thing. I was just wondering if we're writing on our topic and we're struggling to fill, say, of course, right, we have point 1, point 2, point 3, and then we have, 2 to 3 sub points within those main points. If we're struggling to get even to the sub points to the main point, would you recommend that we either double down on try to figure it out, even though we're having some kind of writer's block? Or would you recommend zooming out and making our speech a little more wide? Does that make sense?
I think I understand what you're saying. And this is part of the reason why I request that students pick something that they're passionate about. Okay. Now, yeah, if you want to go talk about the Hubble telescope and the intricacies of the Hubble telescope, well, I only expect one to get so far. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't know. You're not an astrophysicist, are you?
No.
Oh, okay. So you and I would only get but so far with that, you know? We just know it flies into space.
Takes pictures.
Yeah, and take pictures. We got 2 points.
That's it. Flies space, it takes pictures.
Yeah. Oh, and
Maybe
maybe a
after
third
some
one
guy.
sends them back. Yeah. So pick something that you're passionate about and research what you're passionate about. You know, oftentimes we never really research what we're passionate about. You know, and that's how you can understand. You know, is this thing here like with public speaking and presentational skills and stuff like this. I've been doing this for a long time, but I never stopped reading up on it. And I never stopped reading up on strategies from people who were better than me. You know what I mean? Because I can always learn something. I never stop learning. That cycle never stops. So, you know, think that a strategy. It's out there. Just research it. And that can be part of your filler. You know, I'm not expecting nobody to pull this out the cloud. My goodness, please don't do that. Good questions, man. Good questions. Yeah. So any other questions?
Probably just one more. I know you
Yes,
mentioned
sir.
the reference sources, but how many references would you recommend to include in our informative speech? I know you said it's 3 to 4 minutes, so I'm assuming probably maybe 1 per minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna count it, but I'm just saying, whatever it takes for you to get your information. But I mean, I wouldn't turn it into a speech on references, you know.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you know, just, I don't know, you might end up having a couple per minute or 1 per minute. But, you know, make sure that the audience knows that, hey, you've done your homework. People like
Right.
that. Now, I'm giving a talk next week at Georgetown University for a bunch of new budding lawyers, and they hadn't graduated from high school yet. And my charge is to make this interesting as possible, because I usually work with adults. Make this as interesting as possible to them. So part of my thing will be weaving in my talk to them, because I'm not going to just stand up there and blah, blah, blah. The kids don't want to hear that. Heck, y'all don't want to hear that. I'm going to give them activities where they can use their phones, you know, like in a poll or a survey or QR code or something of that nature or whatever, and weave that into, you know, and activities, what they're doing, you know. So that's really challenging. So you find a way to connect with your audience. Now, your audience are your peers, are your classmates. And I'm willing to bet on average, half of them are in the service just like you are. So you kind of have a gist of what someone in your position looks for. What would you look for if someone was coming to talk to you? You know, you deal with facts. You got to know. Yeah. So you think about that. And the rest, other half, probably, you know, civilians like myself. Well, you got our attention. Believe it or not, I know you're in the business of service, and God, Lord have mercy, I can't say how much I appreciate it, but Most of us look up to you. No pressure, bro.
No
So
pressure.
don't let us
That's
down.
always fun. No pressure.
No pressure. Yeah. So it's your stage, man. That's the beautiful thing about it. And you can craft it and mold it however you want it to be. That's the beautiful thing about it. You own those 3 to 4 minutes. Cool. And also too, now if you want to chat or whatever between now and then or whatever, hey, Professor Golden, can you take a look at this or the outline or whatever? Hit me up. And that goes for anybody. Hit me up. Ask the professor, email, phone call, or we can do it virtual. Doesn't matter. I'm here for you. I'm a UMGC grad too. I was there. Well, this didn't exist when I was in school, but you know what I mean. Right.
Yeah.
Anything else, sir?
No, I think that's it for me. Thank you for answering the questions. Yeah, I think the reference one, I didn't want to make it so chock full of information that it was like, okay, well, what's my point? As opposed to, 0 references. I just on that last question, just trying to figure out where that good balance would be. But yes, you answered it pretty good. Thank you.
Okay, well, you asked pretty good. So you made it easy for me. All right. Enjoy the rest of your week. And I'm here with you and I'm here for you. Okay. All right. Take care.